Hey guys, RC here, back with our second episode of our Draft Day Sports College Basketball tutorial. Now, I'm putting up a simultaneous video series. It's just kind of a general walkthrough. This is actually trying to get more in depth. They may both cover similar things, but hopefully this tutorial side goes into a little bit more detail. I am also trying to limit the scope instead of trying to get through every screen, as far as I can in a certain time. This is actually trying to limit what we're looking at. So, just to kind of bring you up to speed, we've gone through the initial setup of the association and setting up your coach and determining what job to take. So if that's what you're looking for, you want to check out episode 1 on that information. This one, we're going to get into the next step, and we're just going to kind of look through the different screens and just kind of learn our way around here. Sometimes with the Wolverine games, especially if you've never seen them before, it can be a little confusing. Don't let that bother you because it's just, you have to get used to it. It is different a little bit, but, hey, different is not always bad or good. It's just different. So once you get used to it, you won't have any problems, I promise. This is the default screen here. This is where if you click on the home button, this is where you come. It basically gives you the information on your coach. In my case, I chose a job as an assistant coach, a first assistant with Gonzaga or Gonzaga. And you'll see a couple of different things here. Down here at the bottom, you can see all these icons. And what do you notice about those? Well, they're very similar to all the icons right up here. And they all work. So we have our staff. There's our staff here. There's our roster, depth charts, rotation, strategy, recruiting, the schedule, information, history. This one is email. This is down here. It's right here on your screen that you have to hit the home button to get to. I don't know what this one does. Let's click on it and find out. Okay, this is your notepad. So if you want to make some personal notes, that's actually pretty cool. Did not see that, so I'm glad we checked it out. So this is actually an internal notepad that you can keep notes, recruiting ideas, players you want to look at, just something you want to remind yourself about, right? All right, so let's kind of start here on what we're looking at. So off to the left, you have the top 25 poll. I did have somebody ask me in one of my other videos, hey, that's not showing up on my game. How did you get that to show up? I don't know. It showed up automatically for me. What I suggested to that person is it probably has to do with your screen resolution and the screen settings that you have. And sure enough, he wrote back and he had turned them down a little bit, and it did appear. So basically, he was only seeing the home screen, and everything over here was not showing, including the top, was not showing up. So you can certainly play without that, because everything that you need is over here. But that does lose a little bit of the bells and whistles that you would like to be able to see. So that's how he fixed it. Just a heads up. All right, profile. Well, that's where we're at here. This gives our coach, whether you're an assistant, whether you're the head coach, what have you. Email. That switches to your email inbox for the game, not your personal email, but your email for the game itself. Check this every week. Sometimes it does have a sound effect. If you play with the sound off, you may miss it. There is no notifications down here or on the home button that you have email. just get in the habit every time you advance, which is this button here, click on the home and it brings you back to this page. All right. The phone, sometimes you will have the option uh, or the need to make phone calls. One place in particular is during scheduling that you want to talk to your AD. Other times, maybe you get an email that there was a locker room incident with certain players. This is how you would actually communicate with the players in those circumstances. So you come to phone. Now you can see right now in my drop down list, there's no information or no options. So you won't always be able to use this. You also have call time remaining. Every time you do something, you lose that time. So it is kind of a it's kind of a video game at that point. It's clicking what you need to do and doing it timely before your timer runs out. Okay, but in the case of your AD, you would select AD from the list. The reason to discuss, maybe you're calling about scheduling, dial, and then you'll have the options start popping up in these blue boxes on what you can talk to him about. What, he'll ask you a question here, and it will give you the answer options down here. Same thing if you want to call the players, and then this will be a drop down list of all the players on your roster. You call, what do you want to call about? Dial, he'll answer the phone, and then you can go into the communication there. So that is how the phone works. The polls, well, you have the top 25 out here, but if you go into the details, media, coaches, RPI. Okay, Norton Watch. The Norton is basically the Heisman for college basketball. I think they actually call it the Naismith Award, but in the Wolverine game here, they call it the Norton Award. So this is not available now. Later in the season, you'll be able to click on that. Awards, National Player of the Week, National Freshman of the Week. You can check this every week. You can check by conference, what have you. Injury report. Now this is for every team. Not sure why they give you every team. I think the default should be for your team only, especially from your home screen. But that's just me. But this is the default here so you'd have to scroll down and find Gonzaga. Oh, there they are. Okay, nobody injured this week. You can do it by conference. We are in the West Coast Conference, so I could choose that. It would be a little easier to find. Again, I think it would make sense to honestly have this default to your team, but that is what it is. So Bubble Watch, again, later in the season when you get close to tournament time, you'll have teams on the bubble. This will kind of give you an indicator whether you're going to be included in the big dance, if you might be relegated to a secondary tournament, if you might miss the tournament completely. Commitments, again, every team. Again, I think this should come right to your team only, because during recruiting, are you really worried about all these other teams? I'm going to say the answer is no. It would be nice to have the ability to see that, but the default should be for your team only, in my opinion. Association media. You'll get news in here, major news stories. So we can click on this and it'll tell us, and you can click on the individual logos up here. These are basically your top programs that, this is recruiting from last season. All right. Gonzaga right there. All right. So we got a center out of Washington, a guard out of Washington, a point guard out of Washington, and that's it. So we had 3 players last year. No rankings or anything, but that's okay. Just tells you who the guys are that you got. Close up here. Dates and tournaments. This is your overall dates. So we can see right here we're at May 1st. So here's your date. We can look on the calendar. May 1st we order. And this basically gives you your synopsis of the entire year. Okay. And then this also gives you the recruiting calendar and then what a description of each one of these periods on what you can do. And we'll get more into that in the recruiting tutorial, but all of that's here in the calendar here on your home page. If we come up to the top and go across the toolbar, well, let's start home. Gets us to this list, and then you move around from within that list. That's the home button, gets you to this screen with this list. And I'm guessing what it's going to do is, let's just try to come back. So whatever you're on when you leave this screen is where you will come back to. So if you want it to be on your email, if you want it to be on your profile, just leave it there. But basically that will get you to here to get access to any one of these options is your home button. Your standings does default to your conference, which it should, because that's the conference you're worried about. And you can see your win-loss record, your games behind, your conference record, current streak, your RPI rating, everything that you need to determine how well you're doing on the season. Leaders, again, this is the entire association. You can filter this into only your conference. You can sort by total stats, regular season only, NCAA tournament, NIT tournament. So the 4 postseason tournaments you could look at, per game stats or overall or total stats, toggles between those two. And then if you're looking at per game, then you have your various stats that you can access in the minutes per game. All right. So, and then if you want to even detail that further down, I only want to look at point guards. Well, you untoggle these guys and it's only going to list the point guards. You only want to look at freshman point guards. There you go. You want to look at every freshman in the nation at every position. There you go. You want to look at underclassmen. There you go. You want to look at the seniors coming out for the next draft. There you go. So you can toggle all through here. We don't have anything because we haven't played any games, but as you see the tip, and I did say in the first video, they put these tips all over the place trying to help you out. Pay attention for those. Double click on a name. So if there's a name in the list, double click on it. It will open the player card and you can look at that player in detail. All right. That's your leaders. Team stats. Same thing. Regular stats, advanced stats. You saw the stat keys changed. So they have some definitions over here. Tempo, average possessions per game. All right, so a lot of detailed stat breakdown. Under regular stats, that's your points, field goals made, field goals attempted. You can look at total stats or points per game. You can look at the entire association, or you can look by conference if you want to. And then once you're in here, you can actually sort these columns. Right now there's nothing to sort, so they're sorting by conference name, and that's okay. Advanced, you can then come. That does not change. You don't have options here. That's just overall. And then you can sort by offense, defense, or miscellaneous as well. All right. Almanac. This is going to be your player records, and this is by conference or the entire association. So you can sort by field goals made. Each offensive category will have a different record board. Single game, single season, or career. So if you're tracking, say you have a senior graduating, where did he rank overall in the conference or overall career? That would be something to know. Coach and team records. So Bob Knight, the winningest coach of all time, 899 games. Dean Smith, 879 for North Carolina. Jim Calhoun, Adolph Rupp, Kentucky. Eddie Sutton, Lefty Driesell, Lute Olson, Lou Henson, Jerry Tarkanian. On down the list. Kentucky wins 2,207. All right. You can sort by wins. You can sort. What team has the most losses in history? Brown University from the Ivy, 1,484. Win percentage, conference championships, NCAA championships, UCLA with 11. The great John Wooden. So these are all real life stats, and then you're playing towards that. Okay. Association history, that's going to be in your association. Okay. Now it gives you the past winners, but this is going to be your association moving forward, and you'll be able to see who won the Norton Award, which is the national championship, the Player of the Year. Oh, that's tournament champion. So the award winner, this information will show up over here. So let's see. Nope. So they don't have any real life stats there. But you do have the real NCAA tournaments, and we are in the West Coast Conference. And there you see a lot of Gonzaga. So that's all in the almanac. And then if you wanted to search, you could actually search for a particular player. You could search for all players in a certain range. Very detailed search. Not sure why you'd ever have to use that, because you don't have free agents or anything. The transfer session you're going to have, if you have transfers, you'll have that come up. So anyway, let's move down into the last toolbar. So remember, home gives you this toolbar, also at the bottom. This toolbar is also actually this one's not at the bottom. So to get here is home. The stuff we just covered here, and then the one down here is the same ones at the bottom. And you'll notice Gonzaga, it's on the team line. Down with the team reference, they're on the same line. So your staff, this is where you would look at who your assistants are, what their ratings are. If you're the head coach, this is where you can fire somebody, you can promote somebody, you can give them a pay raise, negotiate an extension. So like I have 2 years left, they've got 5 years on their deal. So that's where you have to come in and remember to offer them extensions before the end of the season, before they become free agents, and you have to go through the assistant hiring period. So that's what you're going to do in the staff. The roster, this is your players. You can look at the names, and this just gives basics: height, weight, class, GPA, where they're from, are they on scholarship or walk-on. You can go and look at the ratings. Remember in the first video we said you could do these 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. Your choice. You can actually sort these. This is one thing, and I try to throw in some tidbits and suggestions for things that I see. So like the first time I click on a column to sort it, it sorts low to high. I don't know why it does that, because anytime I ever sort a category, typically you're wanting to look for the best player in that category. So I'm having to hit twice to get to that point. Shouldn't that be the default? Just a suggestion. I think that's something for future releases to think about. That's because I always want to see my best players at a category that I'm clicking on, and having to click on it twice is honestly, it's twice the work. Is it hard work? Nah, but it's just cumbersome. All right, this is also where you will go in and redshirt players. You'll highlight a player, you'll see them turn gray, and you can redshirt them during the redshirt period. So this is where you'll go for that. Stats, again, basic, shooting, advanced, miscellaneous. All right, so you have all these options per game, per 40 minutes, totals, regular season, tournaments, you know, enough stats to choke a horse. Injuries. This is where your team injury is. So you remember here, we were looking at injuries here, and it was every team or by conference, but you couldn't look at individual teams. If you're in your roster, that's where you can see your individual team. And this only shows for Gonzaga. Or if you were at Kansas, it would only show your Kansas players. So this will probably be of a lot more use than the other injury screen. So you'll probably spend a lot more time in here. And the help is all of the abbreviations and what they mean. So if you're looking at a stat or a rating and you're like, oh my gosh, what does FGJ mean? Well, go to help. FGJ should be in here somewhere. I believe that's his well, now I'm looking bad. See, they don't have an FGJ in here, but there's one right there. I'm wondering if that is FGI. All right, well, what that is, I know what it is. I'm just looking for it so we could, kind of have it make sense, but unfortunately, I am not able to do that. This is your field goal inside and field goal jump shot. So this is in the paint, up close to the basket. This is jump shots from outside, 15, 18 foot, 3-point range, what have you. That's what those two ratings are. So anyway, but you can see there are a lot of things in here for what different uh, abbreviations mean. So that could be helpful for you. Depth chart. This is where you're going to set your depth chart, and it starts off right here with the point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. Their out is how often, basically how often you want them in the game. So that guy's going to play about 70% of the minutes. And then you can look right down the list. Well, that's my number 2 point guard, but he's also my starting shooting guard, right? So they could interchange, but if they ever have to both come out, or somebody has to come out, then Jerry Smith will come in at either position. He's my 6th man, and then my next guy is my 11th man, and then my last 2 guys, and they won't play very much, 80 and 90. So that's your depth chart, and you can drag and drop these. No, you can't. Oh, you click the name. So if I want to swap these 2 guys, okay, obviously I can't do that until we get into the season. I am guessing that's what that is. Must be. But it does say click on the names of the 2 players, right click on the sub out to increase. That's not working either, and I know for a fact that works because I've done it. So this only works when you get into the season itself, not working right now. But this is where you would look at your depth chart. Now, here's a suggestion to the guys at Wolverine. I really wish you had the AI suggest button here for depth charts, because that makes sense. You're already in the depth chart. This is probably where you would want to see the AI suggest. They do have one, but it's not here. You have to go into the rotation, and there's your AI suggest for both depth and subs. Okay, so you just click on the little TV screen there, and that's how if you click on the words, it won't work. It's on the little computer icon. Again, not working right now because we're not in the season. Okay, but this is where you do this is your sub matrix. So at 20 minutes to 18 minutes, these are the guys I want in. 18 to 16, and you can fine tune. So if there's somebody particular you want in, this is where you could fine tune that game plan. Recruiting, not available till after June 26, but that's the screen you would go to for recruiting purposes. To look at your schedule, again, the schedule does not come out for a couple of weeks here in the game, but this is where you could look at your full schedule and then your next game, your last three, and some recaps. Information on your team, who they are, where they're located at, their facilities and academics again. Let's say you're recruiting somebody and he says, hey, coach, facilities is the most important thing to me. Well, okay, we're in A, so we can compete with basically anybody in the country. All right? That would be useful to know. So that's where you could come and look at that and double check. You could also click on another team. Let's say I'm recruiting against St. Mary's. Well, their facilities are a C. Oh, well, that means that I've got a really good shot against them to beat them out for that player. You remember we talked in the first episode about the mods for the real logos, which you can see we have, the real team names, real conference names. And I said there was that second mod that was for courts and court logos. That's here. You can see the logos that the court, the custom court that came with that, the custom logos. That's where you can see this. This is also where you could browse and update these if you want to do them, say, just for your team if you find something you want. If you want to select a non-conference rival, this is where you would do that. Basically, that team is automatically put on your schedule each season. That's actually pretty huge for online leagues to have human rivalries. And to make sure, if you have a rival, let's say that I play this for 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden I go, wow, the St. Mary's is, a team I'm competing with here every year. Well, they're a conference rival, but let's say that we get knocked out in the first round of the NCAA tournament by Syracuse, each of the 2 years. Well, maybe Syracuse is kind of a rival now because they keep knocking us out of the tournament. We could select them, and then they'll be on our regular season schedule every year, and we can start developing that there as well. So that's where you could do that. So that's pretty cool. That's under the Info tab. Also, this has your historical records, budget information, and a recap of the team goals. And then you could look at history. This is the history of this program, the team prestige. Let's go back. Well, and this is only from the start of your association. Team history, so you can see how you did against every other team in your conference. You can also see how you did against every other conference. Award winners, season recap, so this will show your coach and the record. Player histories, player records, and this is all for just your team. So this is going to be a lot more interesting probably to you than the almanac, because this is only your team. Now, if you see somebody that has like a really high number and he broke the record for your team, well, then maybe you want to go up there and see where he ranked nationally. So a lot of information here, but we went through 4 different toolbars. We went through the top toolbar here. We went through this mid toolbar, which also lines up across the bottom. And then we went through the side toolbar. Also the reminder that if you are, let's say we're here, we can click on email, and that gets us back to our email screen, which is the same as hitting the home button, except you can remember, if we're on the bubble watch and we go to any other screen, well, let's go to roster, back to home. We're still on bubble watch. Let's go to strategy, and let's go to email. Well, it brings us back to this home screen, but it does bring us directly to the email. So it saves you a step if you left somewhere else. Not a huge deal, but it does give you a couple of ways to get back home. So anyway, a lot of information in here, but I just kind of wanted you to understand how to maneuver around and how much information was available in here. Just real quick to wrap this up, of course, you have your main items over here. You can save your league, you can turn sound on or off, you can adjust options, which brings you back into your league setup, and you can turn things on or off if you want to. If you want to set for the CPU to handle certain things, like if you want CPU to handle recruiting, you can turn it on right here. All right. And same thing, and this is where you would go to commissioner mode in multiplayer. The help button, frequently asked questions. There's a guide. Technical support if you're having issues. And then the main menu, which will exit all the way back to the main menu, which is where we first started at episode 1 in the league setup. So you wouldn't want to do that for sure until you saved or you lose all your progress. So hopefully that answers all your questions. Hopefully you can see how to get around all the various screens, how much information is actually available in the game. And next video we will pick up with a new topic. So thanks for checking this out. Hope it helps, and we'll see you next time. Take care.